Elias had always been a light sleeper, but that night something felt different. He woke up suddenly, not because of a dream, but because of a sound he couldn't explain. At first, he thought it was just the wind pushing against the windows. The house was old and noises were normal. But then he heard it again, soft voices, low and tense, coming from the living room. His parents almost never stayed awake after midnight. They followed the same routine every night. Dinner, a little TV, lights off. So why were they whispering now, and why did they sound worried? Curiosity tugged at him. He climbed out of bed, the wooden floor cool under his feet. The house felt strangely cold, as if someone had opened a window. He rubbed his arms and stepped into the hallway. Everything was dark except for a thin line of yellow light escaping from the living room door, which was slightly open. The voices were clearer now. One sounded like his mother, her tone shaky and almost afraid. The other was his father, but not the calm, gentle version Elias was used to. This voice was tense, deeper, carrying a weight Elias had never heard before. He took a small step forward. The floor creaked lightly, making him freeze. He waited. No reaction. Carefully, he moved closer, his heart beating faster with every step. He wasn't sure if he should turn back to his room. Maybe this was a private conversation. Maybe he shouldn't be listening. But something inside him whispered that whatever was happening wasn't normal, that something important was going on, something his parents didn't want him to know. From his position in the hallway, Elias could see only part of the living room, the edge of the sofa, the corner of the bookshelf, and a shadow stretching across the floor. He leaned slightly to the side and caught a glimpse of his father holding a small wooden box. It looked old and dusty, as if it had been hidden for years. His mother stood beside him, her hands trembling slightly as she pointed at the box. "We can't keep this secret forever," she whispered, her voice cracking. "He deserves to know." His father shook his head. "Not yet, not unless we have no choice." Elias blinked. He deserves to know. Were they talking about him? What secret? What was inside that box? His thoughts spun wildly, each question heavier than the last. He pressed his back against the wall, trying to steady his breathing. He had never seen his parents like this, scared, serious, almost desperate. They were always steady, predictable. But tonight something had shattered that image, something bigger than arguments or stress, something that made both of them look like different people. Elias wasn't supposed to be awake. He wasn't supposed to hear any of this. But now he had, and he couldn't turn away. The hallway felt longer, darker, and colder than ever. And deep inside, he knew this night would change everything. Elias pressed himself closer to the wall, trying to stay silent as the scene in front of him unfolded. His father slowly set the wooden box on the table. The moment it touched the surface, a small cloud of dust rose, showing clearly that it hadn't been opened in years. The box looked handmade, dark wood, metal corners, and a lock that seemed old enough to belong in a museum. Whatever was inside wasn't ordinary. Elias felt a sudden chill, not from the cold, but from knowing that what he was about to hear might change everything he believed about his family. His mother's hands shook as she opened the box's lid. Inside lay a stack of yellowed papers, folded letters, and several old photographs. Elias couldn't see the details from where he hid, but he sensed that these were memories from a life his parents had tried to leave behind. His father reached in first, pulling out a photograph. He stared at it for a long moment, too long. Then he whispered almost to himself, "I thought we buried this part of our lives." His mother touched his arm gently. "We did, but the past doesn't stay buried forever." Elias leaned forward, squinting. The photograph showed his parents, much younger, standing with three strangers near a broken-down truck. They didn't look like friends or relatives. Something about the way everyone stood made the picture look like a secret meeting, not a family memory. His heart thudded harder. Suddenly, his mother pointed to an old identification card lying inside the box. "These names, they're not ours anymore." Her voice cracked. "If he finds out we kept them, he won't hesitate." His father sighed heavily, rubbing his forehead. "I hoped he'd forgotten us, after all these years, but the letter says he's searching again." Elias froze. He, searching for them, who could cause so much fear in his strong father and gentle mother. His father picked up a letter from the box and unfolded it. The paper looked fragile, almost ready to crumble. "Listen to this," he said softly. "They're asking about you. They think you know something. Be careful." He let the letter fall back into the box. "This isn't a coincidence. Someone wants answers." Elias felt a knot in his stomach. His parents weren't just worried, they were scared of someone dangerous, and it was clear this person had been part of their past. A part they never told him about. His mother stepped back, wiping a tear. "We tried so hard to build a peaceful life for him, a normal life, but if this man returns—" She didn't finish the sentence. His father looked at the box as if it were a bomb. "Then Elias will have to know everything." Hearing his own name made Elias gasp quietly. The secret wasn't just theirs, it was about him. And now, without meaning to, he had begun uncovering it. Elias had been so focused on the mysterious box and his parents, tense conversation that he forgot about the one thing that could betray him, the old wooden floorboard beneath his foot. When he shifted his weight ever so slightly, a loud crack echoed through the silent hallway. It was the kind of sound that couldn't be ignored, sharp enough to cut through his parents' whispers instantly. His father's head snapped toward the doorway. His mother stiffened like a startled animal. The room fell into total silence, so heavy it felt almost physical. Elias held his breath and desperately wished he could melt into the shadows. His heart pounded so loudly he was sure they could hear it from where they stood. "Someone's there," his mother whispered, her voice trembling. For a second, Elias considered running back to his room under the blankets, pretending he'd never left. But before he could move, his father's deep voice rolled through the air, firm and commanding. "Elias, come out." There was no anger in the tone, just a seriousness that made Elias' hands shake. He swallowed hard, stepped away from the dark hallway wall, and slowly entered the living room. As he walked in, both parents stared at him with wide, shocked eyes filled with fear, not disappointment. His mother rushed forward first. "Elias, sweetheart, what are you doing awake? You scared us." Her voice was gentle, but her face showed panic. Elias didn't know what to say. At the wooden box on the table, then back at his father. "I heard voices. I didn't mean to listen. I couldn't sleep." His father exchanged a long, heavy glance with his wife, a silent conversation passing between them. It was as if they were deciding something important. "How much did you hear?" his father asked quietly. Elias stared at the box again. "Enough," he said honestly. "You were talking about someone and the box and secrets." His voice cracked near the end. His mother's shoulders dropped, as if a weight she had tried to carry alone had finally fallen. She placed a hand over her mouth to keep her emotions from spilling out. His father motioned toward the sofa. "Sit, son. If you've heard this much, there's no point hiding it anymore." Elias sat down, feeling a mix of fear and confusion twisting in his stomach. He had never seen his parents look like this, vulnerable, nervous, almost guilty. His father took the wooden box again and sat across from him. "We wanted to protect you," his father said slowly. "We never wanted you to carry our past." Elias swallowed hard. "What past?" His parents exchanged another fragile look. His mother's eyes glistened with tears. His father took a deep breath. "There are things you don't know about us, about who we were before you were born." In that moment, Elias felt the world tilt beneath him. He knew without a doubt that the life he thought he had was about to change forever. Elias sat frozen on the sofa, his palms sweating as his parents stood before him, no longer calm, ordinary adults, but two people carrying a past too heavy to ignore. His father placed the wooden box gently on the table, as if afraid it might break. Then he looked directly at Elias, his eyes filled with something Elias had never seen before: fear, regret, and determination. "Before you were born," his father began, "your mother and I were not living the quiet life you know now." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "We were part of a group, an underground movement, a resistance." The word hit Elias like a shock. "A resistance? Against what?" he whispered. His mother knelt beside him, her hands trembling. "Against a man," she said softly. "A leader who became dangerous, a man who wanted power at all costs." Her voice weakened as she continued. "He controlled information people, entire communities. Anyone who disagreed with him disappeared." She swallowed painfully, unable to hide the fear that the mere memory brought her. "And you fought him?" Elias asked, eyes wide. His father nodded slowly. "We did. For years, we helped people escape his control. We passed information, protected families, smuggled evidence of what he was doing." He sighed. "But when your mother became pregnant with you, everything changed. We couldn't risk raising you in the middle of that war." "So you ran," Elias whispered. His father nodded again. "We changed our names, left the country, and burned every connection we had. We thought we were finally safe." His mother wiped her eyes. "But safety doesn't last forever, Elias, not when a man like him still has power." Elias felt his stomach twist. "Is he looking for you?" "For all of us," his father answered. "Anyone who left the organization, anyone who knows his secrets." He pointed to the letters inside the box. "Those messages are warnings. People we once knew are being questioned. Some are disappearing again." Elias' breath caught in his chest. "Because of him?" His father didn't answer immediately. Instead, he picked up a faded photograph from the box. Elias leaned closer. It showed his parents, younger and tougher looking, standing beside a tall man with cold eyes. Even in the old picture, the man's presence felt heavy, threatening. "That's him," his father said. "The one we ran from." Elias' heart pounded. Everything he'd known about his family, every calm morning, every peaceful evening, now felt fragile, like a thin layer covering something dark and dangerous beneath. "But why didn't you tell me?" Elias whispered. His mother's voice broke. "Because we wanted you to grow up free, not afraid, not watching your back like we did." His father nodded. "We thought if we stayed hidden long enough, he'd forget us." Elias looked from the photograph to their trembling faces and understood the truth. His parents weren't ordinary. They were survivors. and now their past was coming back for them. In the dim glow of the living room, Elias felt something shift inside him. The world he knew was gone, and a new, darker one was opening right in front of him. The room felt smaller than ever, as if the walls themselves were moving closer. Elias sat on the sofa, staring at the wooden box filled with old photos, secret letters, and faded documents, evidence of a life his parents had tried to bury. His mother stood by the window, pulling the curtains shut even though it was still dark outside. His father paced slowly, rubbing the back of his neck, lost in heavy thoughts. For a long moment no one spoke. Then Elias broke the silence. "What happens now?" His mother turned toward him with eyes full of fear and something else, guilt. "There are letters we didn't show you, new ones," she said softly. "They arrived over the past few weeks." His father opened a small drawer under the table and took out several envelopes. He spread them across the wooden surface. Elias noticed that none of them were postmarked. They were hand-delivered, maybe slipped under the door, maybe left on the doorstep at night. "We hoped they were pranks," his father said, voice heavy. "But after comparing them to older messages, we realized they came from someone who knows our past." Elias picked up one envelope. Inside was a short note written in shaky handwriting. "They are asking questions. Be ready, he hasn't forgot." He felt a cold shiver run down his spine. His mother swallowed hard. "Your father and I have talked about what to do, but every choice feels wrong." "What choices?" Elias whispered. His father stopped pacing and looked him in the eyes. "We can run again," he said. "Pack everything, disappear, create new identities, start all over." Elias felt a heavy lump in his throat. The thought of leaving his home, his friends, his school, the life he knew, it made his chest tight. "Or," his father continued, voice dropping to a low, firm tone, "we can stay and confront this man before he finds us." Elias blinked. "Confront him, but he sounds dangerous." His father nodded slowly. "He is, but running hasn't made him forget us. And the warnings mean something big is coming. We can't outrun him forever." His mother wrung her hands nervously. "Your father still has contacts, people who once fought beside us. Some are willing to help, but they're scattered, hiding just like we were." Elias realized something. This wasn't just about survival. It was about choosing who they wanted to be now that the past had returned. "What do you think we should do?" he asked quietly. His parents exchanged a long, painful glance. His mother's voice broke as she said, "We don't want you to live in fear. We don't want you to inherit our enemies." His father sat beside him and took his hand. "But whatever happens next, you're part of this now. You have the right to know." Elias felt his heart beat slow. A strange calm washed over him, not because things were okay, but because he finally understood the truth. His family was standing at a crossroads, and no matter which path they chose, life would never be the same. Question now was, would they flee from the danger or face it head-on? The living room was quiet again, but it was no longer the same quiet Elias had grown up with. It wasn't peaceful. It wasn't safe. It was the silence that comes when a family stands at the edge of a hard decision, a decision that cannot be undone. Elias watched as his parents sat together, the wooden box open between them like a doorway to a past they had tried so desperately to forget. His mother finally broke the stillness. "We can't run anymore," she whispered, her voice trembling but firm. "Not after everything we've already lost." His father nodded, though Elias could see the conflict in his eyes. "Running would keep Elias safe for a while, but it won't stop him. It only delays the danger." Elias swallowed hard. A part of him wanted to scream, to beg them to leave immediately to avoid the shadows chasing them. But another part, stronger, clearer, kept him grounded. These were his parents. They had survived things he couldn't even imagine. If they chose to stand their ground, they must have a reason. "What will we do?" Elias asked, barely above a whisper. His father took a deep breath. "We fight back, not with violence, not unless we have no choice, but with truth." He reached into the box and pulled out a set of documents Elias hadn't noticed before. "These papers contain everything we kept hidden, evidence of what that man did, the people he hurt, the things he erased." Elias leaned closer. Papers were filled with old reports, handwritten witness statements, coded notes, maps, and lists of names. His parents weren't just survivors, they had been protectors. People had trusted them with these secrets, and now it was clear why the man from their past was searching for them. These documents could ruin him. His mother gently touched Elias' shoulder. "We didn't tell you because we wanted to give you a normal life, but now you deserve the truth. And you deserve a future," his father added. Elias felt a strange mixture of fear and pride. His parents weren't weak, they weren't hiding out of cowardice. They were hiding because they had fought for others first, and now it was time to finish what they started. "So what happens next?" Elias asked. His father stood and locked the box. "Tomorrow at dawn, we contact the people who still trust us, old allies, those who haven't lost hope." His mother wiped her eyes and managed a small, brave smile. "We're not alone in this, Elias, and neither are you." For the first time that night, Elias felt a spark of courage, not because he was brave on his own, but because he wasn't facing the unknown alone. He was facing it with two people who had already survived the worst. The first light of morning began creeping through the curtains, washing the room in a pale, steady glow. Elias stood beside his parents, the three of them forming a small but unbreakable circle. And as dawn rose, he realized something deep and lasting. He hadn't just discovered his parents' secret. He had discovered his purpose. That night, the night he accidentally overheard everything, changed his life forever.